So we're going to start here on the College of Ag Elements page. And I just point you here. I'm going to put this link in the chat box if you want to bookmark it. The reason I point you here is because it's got a lot of help and tutorial information in there. So there's some help sheets, there's some of the presentations we've done. So it's a good place to go to get some resources for using Elements. And then it has a direct link to the Elements page itself right there. So you can find here this down at the bottom where it says Top Activities for Extension Specialists, one page. I'm going to go ahead and put that in the chat box as well, so you can have that document. And it's just a quick one-pager that hits the highlights of the things that you're going to put in most often. It doesn't cover everything, but just I think there's 7 items on there. And then I'm going to give you one more file in the chat box. And that's just a handout for this one. It's got a lot of information on it. So it tells you pretty much all of the different types of activities that you can enter. It gives you information about how to fix if you have an issue. Let's say your name is spelled incorrectly, where to go to fix that. So it's just got a lot of information on there that you're welcome to keep that and print it. But I will tell you that the Elements support page, and it is locked behind your MyID. The Elements support page is very, very good. So I encourage you to start there if you have, if you're unsure about anything. It's got great search features, and you can find the how to correct your data in here, as well as several other topics. And we'll hit a couple of highlights of the pages that you'll want to probably use the most. So that's the Elements help page. I'm going to go ahead and try. Does everyone still see my browser, or can you see my PowerPoint? If somebody can just type in the chat or unmute themselves.
I see
PowerPoint now.
All right, it didn't work yesterday. I don't know what was going on. Okay, that's great. Okay, so again, we're talking to extension specialists. And if you haven't used Elements before, we used it last year. So if you're new, though, just to give you the highlights, there's 4 different sections in Elements. There's publications, teaching activities, grants, and professional activities. Today we're going to focus on some publications and some professional activities. So if you have a teaching appointment, most of that information is going to come in from Banner, from UGA's data. So all of your appointment information will be pre-populated in there. There's some teaching activities you can add manually, like if you're supervising a post-grad. So there's some things you'll add in there manually, but the bulk of it's going to come from UGA. So we're not going to dig into that too much. And then grants are the same way. They all come through sponsored projects. Every once in a while, you may have a grant that you have to put in manually. But if it went through sponsored projects, you don't want to do that simply because it may just be that it hasn't gotten to the stage where it's showing up in Elements yet. And if you do that, you're going to have duplicate entries in there. So that's all I'm going to say on teaching activities and grants. And we talked about the support site. Let me point out the 2 pages that I think are going to be most helpful to you, the activity types defined page and the I did this, where did it go page. The activity types defined page has a list of all the different activities. It's broken down by, like, you've got publications here, it's got teaching activities, and so it tells you a little definition of what each activity type is. So that's helpful if you want to go through and you think you know what something is, but you want to verify. That's a good place to go, and it's very detailed. I doubt you're going to sit and read through the whole thing, but if you want to, go for it. Then the other page is, I did this, where does it go? Great page, great page. And we tried to put several extension examples in there. For example, I did an extension bulletin. How do I put that in? And we're actually going to talk about that in just a bit. I did a video. How does that go in? So it gives you examples of things that you might have done and how you put them in. So it tells you which module you use, what activity type you use, and then any roles or details that you need. So I would definitely get familiar with that page, spend a little time there, and whenever you go to it, you can just Control F. If you go to that page, hit Control F to search the screen and search for those keywords, and you'll be able to find a lot of information there. There's at least 100 different types of activities on there. Okay, so let's look at professional activities, the professional activity section in Elements. These are some examples of some of the activities that are more common for extension specialists. Some of these with parentheses beside them, like membership, there's membership association society club, and there's membership board, and there's membership committee, but you'll see them all grouped together under membership. So it'll say membership : board, membership : committee. And then the same thing with reviewing, refereeing. You've got these different types, but everything else is pretty straightforward. So let's dig into these a little bit. Okay, educational outreach presentation. These are given directly to clientele. Your things like field days, workshops, any extension standard programs. So if you are participating in you know, the regular presentations that you do all of the time, this is going to be that educational outreach presentation. Event administration is if you were the organizer of an event, the coordinator of an event. Yes, Allison, I'll upload those slides here in just a bit. If you administer this, then this activity, then you can put it in that way. So maybe you presented, but maybe your role was more event administrator. You could put it in both ways. If you did both, that's entirely up to you. Event judging, so livestock shows, that sort of thing, DPA. Event participation, 4-H camp, expos, that sort of thing. We talked about membership, so any sort of professional membership to a society club, a board or a committee, those are in there for you. I know we do a lot of those. We have a lot of extra work usually from being a part of those, having that membership, but your own professional development, so this is something you participated in, you were a participant, and it was furthering your education and knowledge. So any workshops that you attend, any continuing ed programs, conference presentations, that sort of thing. And then projects was something that we definitely put in there for extension. If you are working on applied research project, feasibility studies, field work, that sort of stuff, you're going to put that in here. So that may be something that's ongoing, that you're going to have the dates so that they continue to show up on your EASE report. And so that was sort of something that a lot of other colleges weren't doing. So we worked really hard to get that one in there. Technical assistance. These are your on-site visits to producers or industry folks. So that shouldn't be confused with consulting. Consulting, and there is a place to put consulting in, but technical assistance is what you're doing as part of your public service and outreach. Consulting is what you're going to do. Usually it has to be outside of the state unless it's approved by your department head and by VP of Public Service and Outreach. So those are like for pay type things, whereas technical assistance is what you're doing in your everyday extension work. So let's do an example of a professional activity. This will be a presentation, we'll say Master Cattlemen's Association, but any presentation that you're out there in the field doing. So it's just a lecture given to school, government, civic groups. It could be an in-service or professional development for agents. Those are educational public service outreach presentations as well. Now, if you're a guest lecturer in a formal course, there's a teaching activity called guest lectures. So that's not the same thing as this outreach presentation. And then professional activity technical assistance is that going out, that one-on-one, going out to look at a farm. So not the same thing as doing a presentation in front of a group of people. I mean, you can have a small group of people when you go out for an on-site visit, but that's not the sort of thing we're talking about here. So we're going to put it in educational outreach presentation. So we go to the home tab. You'll see that up in the top corner there. And it has groups of the 4 different areas that we talked about. Now yours is going to be much more detailed than mine. I don't have any information in Elements simply because I'm not faculty. I don't report in there, but so it's going to be pretty thick for you. But just go to this professional activity and click the add button. And it's going to give you a list of all the different types of professional activities that you can enter. So you can see everything on here. You're going to notice that there's things on here that we're never ever going to use. There are some things that are like for the music and those sorts of folks that we're just not going to use, especially in publications, but there's some in here as well. So this one, this is the one we're going to choose. And then we've got some fields, and I know you're not going to be able to read all of this right here. At least I don't think you can. But everything with an asterisk is a required field. So you have to put those in. The presentation title, the date, the event type, the target audience, those are all required for this, this professional activity. So you're going to choose your role, and it's presenter, co-presenter, supporter. You're going to choose your event type, and there's a long list of event types. It may be conference, it may be a board meeting that you're presenting at, a reception. So there's lots of different event types for you to choose from. Should be able to find it in there, we hope. And then your target audience. So if it's faculty and staff, you can choose that. Seniors, volunteers. So you're going to put those in for your target audience for each activity. Now, this is kind of important. The scope of your activity is going to be local is county level delivery or city, but you're probably looking at county level delivery. And regional would be multi-county, or state would be throughout the state. Regional would be multiple states, and then national and international. So if it is a county-driven event, be sure to choose local for your type. Now this is very important. This really impacts our reporting and what we can do. Currently, we really don't have a good way to get specialist information. So whenever we report things like our CEUs and our number of contacts and all of that good stuff, and we report that to the USDA, we report that to the governor's office, Excellence in Extension. So there's several places where we do annual reports as well as just ad hoc reporting where we're not able to capture specialist information because you don't report in Georgia Counts the way that agents do. So we've got this section added in Elements, and we ask that you use that for every presentation that you do. So you're going to enter the number of participants, the number of contact hours, and if you did the same session multiple times, you can enter the number of sessions, but you're going to total up your number of participants and total up your contact hours. Now, this little box that says reported in Georgia Counts, if this event was coordinated by an agent, the agent is going to put it in Georgia Counts, and we want to avoid duplication. So be sure you check that box if this was something that was coordinated by an agent. If you came out to the county and presented to that Master Cattlemen's Association without an agent coordinating that, then you wouldn't check that box. So that's going to let us know to ignore that whenever we pull our numbers so we don't get duplications. And Ted says, if specialists report in Georgia Counts, do we still check the box? Yes, if it's reported in Georgia Counts already, go ahead and check that box so we don't do it twice. Okay, now there's the additional information section that you can expand by clicking the little plus button. And it just gives you some, what about trainings you do for agents? Allison asked. Yes, there's a training type for in-service. So you would put that in as an educational outreach and choose in-service for your event type. And then Jean says, is contact hours the time we presented, or is it multiplied by the number of participants for total contact hours? Do the time you presented and we'll do the math. So if it's a 2-hour presentation, you had 2 sessions with 10 people each, you put in 20 participants and we'll multiply it out to get 40 contact hours. Oh, I'm sorry, Allison said, do you check the box for a training that you present to agents? No. An agent might report that in Georgia Counts, but they're going to report that as professional development for themselves. So they're not going to put contacts in there. That's what we're looking to count are those contacts and contact hours. So you don't need to check the box if it's an in-service. Okay, so the additional information section, you can put some details about your event. If you want to put a little synopsis in there, you can do that under description of presentation. You can put in the total number of CEUs awarded. You can put in the mode of delivery if it's online or face-to-face. Now CEUs, those can get a little tricky. Typically what we report in extension are category 3 CEUs. Now you don't have to put this in, but if you're tracking this for your own benefit, you're welcome to put your CEUs in. But a category 1 CEU requires a lot of paperwork. It has to be approved internally. You have to keep that roster forever. They've never given us a time frame as to when we can purge those. So things like pesticide trainings, you have to do CEUs for those, and those documents have to be kept. And CEUs for like early childhood education, those things might be kept. Although a lot of times you're having that organized through an outside conference or something like that. So they're keeping up with the CEU information. So it's just up to you if you want to put that in there, but make sure you know the difference between category 1, category 2, category 3. If you're unsure of which category, but you know that you awarded CEUs, go ahead and choose 3. It's the safe bet. Pesticide training is category 1, yes. Okay, so after you've entered all of your details in the essential information section, and if you wanted to add anything in the additional information section, you're going to click the Save button, and then it's going to take you to a little overview page. You can click Edit Record if you want to open that back up and make any changes after you've looked it over. So that little Edit Record button is there for you to go back. Okay. We're going to talk about publications next. There's a lot of different publications that we do in Extension. I tried to capture some of the most common ones here. You'll see published and unpublished activities or publications, journal articles, that sort of thing. So let's dig into these a little bit. Film, video, media. So this is your contribution to creating a video. It could be a TV segment or a show. Nick Furman, I know you're here, so we know this is talking about you. Radio spots or programs. So it's your contribution here, and that's not to be confused with a broadcast interview where you're maybe being interviewed on the news, because that's a different professional activity type for broadcast interviews. Instructional material, a lot of folks do those. So lab manuals, study guides, PowerPoints. If you create a PowerPoint for the agents to go out and use with our clientele, you can put that in there because you're spending some time getting all that together, so we want to capture that. I call them boxed curriculums because I can't think of another name for it, but like a prepared set of activities that you can give agents to go out and teach a particular concept. We have some of those. So and 10 asks, do promotional videos we create for our programs go under film video? Yes, I would put it there. Now they get a little tricky here under internet publications because they put YouTube videos in there. Honestly, I don't really agree with that. I know I probably shouldn't say that, but I would put a YouTube video under video media, but because it's an internet publication, just use your best judgment. It's going to show up on your EASE report either way. It's just what section it shows up under. So if it's a promotional, something that you created, you're definitely going to do that as film video media. If it's a DVD or something that's being distributed, well, by any means, then you can put that in that way. Other internet publications or blogs, social media. If you maintain a Facebook page or something like that for your program, you can put that in. Try to capture things that you spend your time on. So if you come across anything that you're not sure how to put it in or you don't feel like we've captured, shoot me an email and we'll see if we can figure out how to put it in there. If we can't, we can make a request to add that activity type. Okay, report is a special one. You'll see extension bulletins are in here. This is where we put these. So this is published reports, research reports, technical reports. I was talking to Sharon Kane yesterday, and she was talking about ag snapshots. We kind of worked through it and came up with, that's really a report. That's a technical report. So it may be something that you put together where you're compiling data, or it may be something like an extension bulletin where you're writing stuff specifically for clientele. Pesticide handbook is a good example. So anything that you're creating that is sharing technical information, research data, that sort of thing is going to go in as a report. Not like a scholarly paper, though. I hope that the difference makes sense. But if you're unsure, just give me a call or shoot me an email and we'll figure it out together. Okay, so when you're entering publications, you've got a couple of options. You can import in bulk with EndNote or BibTeX. I can't help you with this. This is out of my realm of expertise, but these are the databases that you can pull your information from. And Chandler is our librarian who can help you get that together and get that uploaded into your publications in bulk, so you don't have to go in and enter them one at a time. It's kind of tricky with the presentation, the publication databases that they use in Elements. There's not a lot of extension publications yet, so we're not able to get all of our stuff automatically synced just yet. So that may be a way for you to go and get some more things to bring in that way in bulk. Okay, so we are going to use an extension bulletin for a publication example. So again, we're back to the home page, and by the Publications tab, you can just click the Add button. And the different publication types will appear. If in the College of Ag we are creating dance, let me know because I want to come. That would be great. But you'll see things in here that you'll never use. But this one we're going to put in as report, as we talked about. Now it's going to ask you to search, and that's not a bad thing to do. Somebody may have already entered this publication and hasn't added you as a co-author yet, or maybe they did add you as a co-author and you just didn't notice in your list. So you can do a search for that publication title. It'll hit on any, any part of that title that you put in there. If you know for a fact it's not in there, you can just skip that. But it'll give you, show you these results, and you can just click the claim button to claim anything that's come back in the results that you know is yours. Again, if not, just hit the skip button and you'll go on to the next step, which is this form here. Again, anything with an asterisk is a required field. So we're going to ask what your relationship is to this report. If you're just not just a contributor, but if you are a contributor or full authorship editor. And I just talked to the folks at UGA who handle Elements about revising extension bulletins. And I'm not sure I would put that in as editor of an extension bulletin, even though you're updating it. I think I would put that in as a new publication. But we're getting that worked out. So put it in however it makes sense to you, and I'll send out an email to everybody once I get some confirmation on how they want this, how we should enter this, because it's a common thing for us. Okay, you can search in the add person, search for someone's last name. They'll come up. You can add them, so you've got other authors in there. The report type, for this one we're going to click extension bulletin, but you can see there's that technical report that we talked about, or a project report, a BI report. A lot of us are doing more and more of that. And then the status, if it's published, unpublished, submitted, all that good stuff, published online. And your pub status date. So you may have put it in there whenever you were working on it. You can put it in there as preparation, let's say for 2016, and then you come back and it's published in 2017. You can change your publication date, your publication status date, so that it'll show up on that you were preparing it in 2016 and it was published in 2017. So you don't have to enter it again. You can just go back and update the status and change that date. Okay, this one is not fun, and I apologize in advance for all that you have to do to add the peer-reviewed label. We are talking to the folks who build Elements and trying to get them to make this easier, because adding labels is kind of a pain. I think you've got 8 clicks or something like that. So under when you view your publication details after you've saved it, there's a little button that says labels, add labels. So you're going to click on that, and then there's a list of the different label categories. So they're like all rolled up. So choose the heading for peer reviewed, click the little plus sign beside it to expand that. And there's only one under the peer reviewed heading, and that's peer reviewed /refereed. So you click the plus sign, the green plus sign, to add that to your publication. So I don't know how many clicks that was, but it was several to get there. And then you close your label window, clicking the X. Now, if you don't click that green button to add it, it's not going to put it on there. So be sure you don't skip that step. So then your record is complete, and you can choose the edit record button again, like we did with our professional activity, if you want to go in there and make any changes. And I'll show you at the end how to edit a record that you're not just finishing up, that's been sitting in there for a while. Okay, so your EASE report, we used to call it your faculty activity report. It's basically what you're going to present to your department head during performance review time. So from your profile or from the Home tab, you can click on CV and Reports, and this little window will come up. There's actually a couple more things on this list now that we'll talk about in a few minutes too. Select your dates for your report. If you want to try to type it in there UK style, you can. It confuses me, so I use the calendar date picker because this is developed in England. They've got the dates, what Americans consider backwards. And then you click the download as a Word document. And it does give you an editable Word document, so you can make changes in there. I would make the changes in Elements if it's something significant, but if you want to add details about your work, maybe details about a presentation in there, go for it, but I wouldn't go moving things around on your EASE report, because then you're just going to have to do it every time. I'd fix it in Elements so that it shows up correctly. But you may want to supplement data, so you have a Word document that you can do that with. And this is what the top of it looks like. There's different sections in there. So it has your things that come in automatically, and I'll show you how to fix things that are wrong, but your academic appointment, your certifications you fill out yourself, workload comes in automatically. Most of the teaching stuff comes in automatically. Publications are the ones that you manually entered or something that you claimed in the sync. Grants and sponsored projects, again, as we said, most of that comes from UGA. And then professional activity types, and those are the ones that you entered. Those are all manual entries. So pubs are grouped with things like published and unpublished, or peer-reviewed and not peer-reviewed. So there's a little grouping in there, but these are basically the main sections of your EASE report. And you have a profile in Elements. And we'll look at that a little bit more when we jump on to Elements too. But just know that you can customize this page. There's a lot you can add. You can hide things from this page. But this is not public facing. This is just for internal users. However, anyone with a MyID can go in there and look at your Elements profile. So it's a good way to check on your peers and see if there's any collaboration that you want to work with folks on. You've got a lot of different detail in there. If you want to take the time to go and fill that out, you can. Now, UGA is talking about having a public-facing profile. It's not going to be this, but we're talking about adding another module for how to have a public-facing profile. So there's a lot of discussion going on about that, strong opinions about that, but I'll let you know when we know more about it. So you can hide things from your profile, and I'll show you when we get into Elements too, but there's a little I button. I think it's an I. And you click on that and it will X that out, and this activity won't show on your profile. And that goes for publications, that goes for professional activities, all that good stuff. You can hide those from your profile. Okay, so that's about it. My contact information is there. That's it for our PowerPoint. I did want to go in and take a little time to show you a couple of things in Elements. I'm probably going to have to log in again here. Some people will tell you to navigate differently, but I really like the Home tab. You can always come back to Home, and it gives you, let me impersonate someone who's got more stuff in here. Now, if you have someone who enters your data for you, you can go to this menu and click over here for impersonate, and you can add people in the college. You just search for their name and you can add them as a person who can impersonate you. So if you have an admin assistant or someone who enters data for you, don't give them your MyID. Give them rights to impersonate you in the system. So back on the Home tab, you can see Ellen's has a lot more activities in there than I did. If you hover over on these graphs, you can see she had 27 publications in 2016, 14 in 2015, so forth and so on. If you click on any of these links, it's going to take you to those that filtered list. So if we click on abstracts, it's going to give us all of her abstracts only. And here's that little I button. So you can see it's grayed out when you don't want someone to see that on your profile. And then it looks regular if you want it to show up. From the Home tab, you can click Edit My Profile. This information up here is coming in from UGA, so if it needs to be changed, I'll show you how to change that in just a minute. Anything with a little pencil beside it is going to be what you can edit. So your overview, these things are coming in from UGA. Your degrees are coming in from UGA. You can add your own certifications there, and those will show up on your EASE report as well. You can add any trainings, language competencies, websites, and then you see down here all of your activities show up. So if you had clicked that I button, then they wouldn't show up down here. Okay, and you can see over here on the right side anyone that she's worked with, they're listed over here. So you can see with Bob and jump over to his profile, and you can look and see his profile page. You can look at his publications. So this is all open to anyone who has a MyID. Okay, let's look here really quickly. Here's the I did this, what goes where. So this is the page I was telling you about. I did this, where does it go? Let's look for the word extension. So I did Control F on in my browser, and I came back with some. I supervise faculty in the county. That'd be like a CEC's role. I wrote an extension report or a numbered bulletin. You can see we put that in as report and choose extension bulletin. So that's all for faculty. Let's look for the word committee real quick. Okay, so that gives you, I chaired a committee, I was on a search committee, lots of committee stuff. And you can see there's different committee membership if you're a member of a board, an association, all that good stuff in there. Okay, I'm going to go back to the home page, and I'm not 100% sure how to find, oh, here it is. I'm sorry. Right over here where it says correcting data on the big red button. it takes you to this long list, and it's crazy, folks. I know it's crazy. I know it doesn't make sense, but your first name is in one database and your last name is in another database. Don't ask me why, but that's the way that it works. Once we go to one source, all that's probably going to change. So it tells you here, let's say your first name is incorrect, who you need to contact, that would be the EITS help desk, and tell them to change your name. If it's in the HR system, you go to your HR person in your unit and ask them to get your name changed. So you can see here anything that your courses are taught, how you go through and get those fixed. So that's another good one, because sometimes folks see errors and want to get that taken care of, and there's no one email address that you can send, can you fix this for me to. If you email me, I'm just going to send you to this page. So that's about all that I have. Does anybody have any questions? What about writing newsletters? Elements specifies where to put editing and distributing, but not writing. Let's go back to the home page. And let's search. Sorry, my connection got slow all of a sudden. I'm sorry, folks, we're getting there. I broke the Georgia Count server twice this week. So if I break the Elements server, I'm going to lose my job, I think. Okay, so let's search for a newsletter. Okay, I did this. Where does it go? Popular Press. I edited a newsletter. So there you go. It's a handy page. It's got lots of great stuff in there. Popular Press is going to be your magazine articles, newspaper articles, all sorts of stuff that's going to be published. Any other questions? Oh, if I managed to break Elements, thanks, Matthew. I might be able to do it. I've got some mad skills these days. Where does it go? Okay, had it under publication type Popular Press, just didn't have it in the I did this. Where does it go section? Oh, okay. Okay, clarify for me, Allison, if that's another question.
Hey, Sunshine. No, it's not. It's under the I did this. Where does it go? It just speaks to editing. It's just
okay.
the activity types defined, and then under publications, it does talk about writing. So it does clarify.
Oh, okay.
It's not quite as clear. Thank you.
But you can see this. The search feature is pretty good. It'll find lots of good stuff for you. Okay, and Philip says, is there a copy function? Oh, wouldn't that be great? We've asked for it. Unfortunately, no, there is not a copy function yet. But like I said, we're working on it. That would be really great. When we added that in Georgia Counts, people did backflips. It was very helpful. So hopefully we'll get that in the next phase that we roll out. So that should be, I think, next year. Okay, Sherry says, how will you distribute, post these PowerPoints and handouts? Give me just 1 second to be quiet for just a second, and I will find it and post it right now. I'll post it in the chat box. Oh, no, I won't. Okay, if you want that, if you'll hang around for a minute, give me a chance to get it saved as a PDF, and I will upload that. Does anybody else have any questions, though, in the meantime? Yes, we know the copy function is needed. We've put that out there quite a bit. Okay, here comes that file. One second. Okay, there's the PDF of the, sorry, those are big slides. I hope that's okay. If anybody wants it in a different format, just shoot me an email and I'll send it to you on 3 on a page or 6 on a page or whatever. Okay, any other questions?